Genesis 13 1-4. Then Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him, to the south. Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journey from the south as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar which he had made there at first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord.
Abram, now wealthy, leaves Egypt with Sarai and Lot, returning to the place between Bethel and Ai in Canaan where he had earlier built an altar. Here, Abram calls on the name of the Lord, demonstrating his continued faith and dependence on God.
Genesis 13 5-7. Lot also, who went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. Now the land was not able to support them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. The Canaanites and the Perizzites then dwelt in the land.
Abram and Lot's wealth leads to conflict. Their combined flocks and herds are too large for the land to sustain, causing strife between the herdsmen. This strife occurs within the broader context of the land being inhabited by the Canaanites and the Perizzites, foreshadowing the future conflicts over the land. As you reflect on these passages, consider the implications of Abram's wealth, the resulting conflict with Lot, and the ongoing challenge of living in the land promised by God but currently inhabited by others. These dynamics continue to shape the narrative and the development of key themes in Genesis.
Genesis 13 8-13. So Abram said to Lot, "Please let there be no strife between you and me, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brethren. Is not the whole land before you? Please separate from me. If you take the left, then I will go to the right, or, if you go to the right, then I will go to the left." And Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt as you go toward Zoar. Then Lot chose for himself all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east. And they separated from each other. Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent even as far as Sodom. But the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinful against the Lord.
In an effort to resolve the conflict, Abram suggests that he and Lot separate. Generously, Abram lets Lot choose his portion first. Lot selects the well-watered plain of Jordan, which is likened to the garden of the Lord and the land of Egypt. This land includes the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, which are noted for their wickedness. Abram, for his part, dwells in the land of Canaan.
Genesis 13 14-18. And the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, "Lift your eyes now and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward, for all the land which you see I give to you and your descendants forever. And I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could number the dust of the earth, then your descendants also could be numbered. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you." Then Abram moved his tent, and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built an altar there to the Lord.
After Lot departs, God reaffirms his promise to Abram, giving him all the land he can see and promising him innumerable descendants. In response, Abram moves to the terebinth trees of Mamre in Hebron, where he builds another altar to the Lord. As you consider these passages, reflect on the dynamics of separation, choice, and divine promise. Notice the contrasting paths of Abram and Lot and the implications of their choices. Consider also the repeated emphasis on God's promise and Abram's faithful response, themes that are central to Abram's story and the broader biblical narrative.
Genesis 14 1-7. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel king of Shinar, Arioch king of Elasar, Kedorlaomer king of Elam, and Tidal king of nations, that they made war with Bera king of Sodom, Bersha king of Gomorrah, Shinab king of Admah, Shemeber king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is, Zoar. All these joined together in the valley of Siddim, that is, the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Kedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year Kedorlaomer and the kings that were with him came and attacked the Rephaim and Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzim and Ham, the Emim and Shaveh Kiriathaim, and the Horites in their mountain of Seir, as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness.
This passage introduces a conflict between a coalition of kings, led by Chedorlaomer, and the kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, and other cities in the region. These cities, having served Chedorlaomer for 12 years, rebel in the 13th year, leading to war in the 14th year. The kings with Chedorlaomer attack several peoples in different locations, showing their power and dominance.
Genesis 14:8-12. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is, Zoar, went out and joined together in battle in the valley of Siddim against Chedorlaomer king of Elam, Tidal king of nations, Amraphel king of Shinar, and Arioch king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of asphalt pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell there, and the remainder fled to the mountains. Then they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their provisions, and went their way. They also took Lot, Abram's brother's son who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed.
In the ensuing battle, the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah are defeated, and their cities are plundered. Lot, who lives in Sodom and has become associated with these cities, is captured, setting the stage for Abram's intervention. As you reflect on these passages, consider the dynamics of conflict, power, and allegiance they portray. Notice how Lot's choice of dwelling place has placed him in the middle of this conflict, and anticipate how this situation will involve Abram and test his faith and commitment.
Genesis 14:13-16. Then one who had escaped came and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and they were allies with Abram. Now when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants who were born in his own house, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. He divided his forces against them by night, and he and his servants attacked them and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is north of Damascus. So he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people.
Upon hearing of Lot's capture, Abram quickly springs into action. He gathers a force of 318 trained servants and, with the element of surprise on his side, launches a successful night raid against the kings, pursuing them as far as Hobah. Abram's rescue mission is a success. He recovers all the goods, rescues Lot, and frees the captured people.
Genesis 14:17-20. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him at the valley of Shaveh, that is, the king's valley, after his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him. Then Melchizedek king of Salem brought out bread and wine. He was the priest of God Most High. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him a tithe of all.
Upon Abram's victorious return, 2 kings come out to meet him. The king of Sodom, whose city Abram has just saved, and Melchizedek, king of Salem and priest of God Most High. Melchizedek blesses Abram, acknowledging that his victory was delivered by God, and Abram gives Melchizedek a tithe, a 10th part of all the spoils, in recognition of his status as a priest. As you continue studying these passages, consider the ways in which they portray Abram's courage, resourcefulness, and faith. Reflect also on the introduction of Melchizedek and the significance of his encounter with Abram. These narratives continue to develop our understanding of Abram's character and his relationship with God.
Genesis 14:21-24. Now the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand to the Lord, God Most High, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will take nothing, from a thread to a sandal strap, and that I will not take anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich, except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion.
The king of Sodom offers Abram all the goods he recovered during the rescue mission, but Abram refuses. He has sworn an oath to God not to take anything from the king of Sodom, so that no one can claim to have made Abram rich other than God himself. Abram's loyalty and faith in God are displayed in this act, as he wants to ensure that the credit for his wealth and success remains with God. The only exceptions to his refusal are the provisions consumed by the men who accompanied him on the mission, and the portions for his allies Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. As you consider these passages, Reflect on the importance of Abram's faithfulness and integrity. His refusal to accept the spoils of war demonstrates his unwavering commitment to God and his desire to honor him above all else. This story helps to further establish the character of Abram as a faithful servant of God and provides valuable insights into the nature of his relationship with God.